My dear brothers and sisters, today I want you to open your heart to a truth that will reshape the way you remember your pain. Many of you carry scars from betrayal, rejection, disappointment, and loneliness. People you trusted walked away. People you loved misunderstood you. People you sacrificed for eventually turned against you. And for a long time you asked, God, why did you allow this? Why did you let them hurt me? There are moments in life when God sees the future you cannot see. He hears conversations you never heard. He knows intentions hidden behind smiles, and He sees traps long before you ever step near them. And so, in His mercy, He allows certain people to exit your life, even if their exit comes through pain. Sometimes the only way God can disconnect you from what is destroying you is through a wound. Sometimes the only way He can move you into your destiny is by allowing you to feel the discomfort that forces you forward. God sometimes allows hurt to protect you from unseen dangers ahead. There are moments in life when you feel blindsided by pain, moments when someone's actions or words cut deeper than you expected, and you find yourself asking why God would permit such a wound. But what you often cannot see in those moments is the larger plan unfolding behind the scenes. God sees the fullness of your journey, your past, your present, and every step of your future. He knows the paths you might take, the people who might influence you, and the consequences of staying connected to those who are not meant to walk with you into the next season. Sometimes the hurt is not a punishment, it is a form of protection. When God sees danger ahead, danger you are unaware of, He may allow a rupture, a moment of pain, or an unexpected separation to shield you from a far greater harm that would have unfolded if that connection had continued. There are times when you cling to people, relationships, and environments simply because they feel familiar or comforting. You see potential in them, you invest your heart into them, and you believe that with enough patience and love everything will work out. But God sees beyond potential. He sees the truth of the heart. He knows when someone's presence in your life would eventually limit you, distract you, or derail the purpose He has placed inside you. And because He is committed to your destiny more than your comfort, He allows circumstances that push you away from what you would never willingly walk away from. That moment of hurt becomes a spiritual alarm, alerting you that not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Not every friendship is healthy for your spirit, and not every connection aligns with the path God designed for you. Many times the danger is not obvious. People can smile and still carry intentions that are not pure. They can speak kindly and still harbor jealousy, resentment, or negativity toward the calling God has placed on your life. There are battles being fought in the unseen, the kinds of battles you are not equipped to detect on your own. And so, God steps in. He allows discomfort, conflict, betrayal, or distance to reveal what you would have overlooked. The pain becomes a revelation. It uncovers hidden motives, exposes fragile loyalties, and brings clarity to situations clouded by emotion. What feels like a betrayal may actually be a blessing because it removes you from a path that would have weakened your spirit or delayed your progress. Protection from God does not always come in the form of peace. Sometimes it comes disguised as disruption. You may interpret the hurt as a setback, but heaven sees it as a redirection. You may view the separation as abandonment, but God sees it as a necessary step to prepare you for what is ahead. The enemy often uses people to distract, delay, and divide, but God steps in and removes those influences before they can cause lasting damage. What you experience as emotional pain is sometimes divine intervention, guiding you away from harm you never even knew existed. As you reflect on the moments you were hurt, you may begin to see patterns. You may realize that every painful exit led to something greater. Every closed door positioned you for a better opportunity. Every person who walked away created space for someone more aligned with God's plan. And though the process was painful, it was also necessary because God values your purpose too much to let the wrong people sabotage it. Pain becomes the tool He uses when you cannot see the danger ahead, pushing you forward to the places where His blessings can flow without obstruction. Rejection is often a divine redirection toward your true destiny. When people turn away from you, when relationships collapse unexpectedly, or when doors you prayed for remain firmly shut, it is easy to interpret these moments as failures. You may look at the rejection and think something is wrong with you, or that you are being pushed aside because you weren't enough. But in spiritual reality, rejection can be one of the clearest signals that God is guiding your steps away from paths that were never meant to carry you toward your purpose. Every no you encountered, every silence you endured, Every goodbye you didn't ask for may have been a strategic move from heaven, gently turning your life away from environments that could not sustain what God intended to birth inside you. There are times when you beg God to open a door simply because it looks good, feels promising, or appears to match your desires. But what you desire and what you are destined for are not always the same. People you wanted acceptance from may not have the capacity to walk with you into the future you are being shaped for. Opportunities you pursued may have carried hidden burdens that would have drained your strength. Paths that seemed right could have led you away from the calling uniquely designed for you. And so God steps in. He shuts the door, allows the person to walk away, or lets the situation collapse, not to break you, but to reroute you. Rejection becomes protection. Even though it feels painful, it becomes direction, even though it stings. Sometimes the moment a person rejects you is the exact moment heaven begins to redirect you. When someone you value does not value you back, it may be because their role was only meant to teach you a lesson, not accompany you into your destiny. When a job, opportunity, or relationship doesn't work out, it may be because God sees a better alignment for you ahead, one that fits your purpose more perfectly than what you were praying for. God's redirection can be subtle or sudden. At times, He blocks what you want because it would interfere with what you need. At times, He allows a door to slam shut because it leads to a hallway filled with more doors, each one closer to the path He prepared for you long before you were aware of it. Rejection clears the space around you so that the things meant for you can finally reach you without obstruction. It teaches you to stop chasing acceptance from those who cannot see the value God placed within you. It strengthens your discernment, helping you recognize what aligns with your calling and what simply distracts from it. Over time, you begin to realize that many rejections were actually moments God rescued you from lesser plans. You begin to see that those who walked away created space for people who truly honor your purpose. You start to recognize that the disappointments you faced were actually divine reroutings, turning you toward relationships, environments, opportunities, and seasons that match the destiny God has been preparing for you all along. Some people exit your life because their season in your story has ended. Life moves in rhythms, and relationships often follow the same pattern. There are individuals who enter your journey with great impact, who walk with you through meaningful moments, who help shape your growth, and who feel essential to your progress. Yet, their purpose in your life may not be permanent. Their presence may be designed only for a chapter, not the entire book. And when that chapter finishes, God allows the connection to change, fade, or break, not because something went wrong, but because their assignment in your life has been completed. Recognizing this truth helps you release the weight of trying to hold on to relationships that are no longer meant to continue. When people leave, your heart may interpret their departure as abandonment or betrayal. You may question what you did wrong or why the bond weakened. But often, it's not about failure or fault. It's about timing. God orchestrates relationships in alignment with purpose. Some people are sent to teach you strength, some to guide you through difficult seasons, some to support your growth, and others to refine your character through challenges. Once their role is fulfilled, the relationship naturally shifts. Trying to keep someone in your life after their season has ended can lead to frustration, emotional exhaustion, and spiritual stagnation because you are holding on to something God is gently trying to help you let go of. Every relationship you have carries a purpose. Some are foundational, meant to root you and build your faith. Others are transitional, called to carry you from one level of growth to another. Still others are transformative, shaping your identity and helping you see parts of yourself you never noticed. And while each relationship is valuable, not all are meant to stay. When a season ends, it's an indication that God is making room for new people, new experiences, and new opportunities that will take you further into your destiny. The ending is not a punishment. It is preparation. When you cling to people who are no longer aligned with your journey, you block the flow of what God is trying to bring next. There are doors waiting to open, but they cannot open until certain relationships close. There are blessings prepared for you, but they cannot manifest until you release what no longer fits the direction God is guiding you toward. The transition may feel painful because endings often carry emotional weight. Yet, within that pain, there is divine strategy. God knows that certain individuals cannot go where you are going. Their mindset is not ready for your next level. Their presence might hold you back or pull you down. So He allows circumstances that lead to separation, enabling you to move forward freely. As people exit your life, You begin to see how each one contributed to your development. Some taught you resilience by challenging you. Some taught you compassion by supporting you. Some taught you wisdom by disappointing you. And some taught you discernment by revealing who they truly were. Every lesson has value, and every exit carries purpose. The season they spent with you was meaningful, but the timing of their departure is just as meaningful. It signifies a shift, a progression, a divine turning point in your life. Over time, you may also notice that new individuals step in after others step out. These new relationships feel more aligned, more peaceful, and more synchronized with your growth. Their presence confirms that the exits you experienced were necessary steps in God's larger plan. The ending of one season creates the beginning of another, and each season draws you closer to the destiny God crafted uniquely for you. Pain can be a tool God uses to separate you from harmful connections. There are moments when the discomfort you feel is not random, not accidental, and not without meaning. It is a signal, a push, a divine nudge that moves you away from people, environments, and situations that would eventually damage your spirit if you remained attached to them. Pain has a way of revealing what peace often hides. When everything feels comfortable, it is easy to overlook the subtle signs that someone's influence is draining you, limiting you, or pulling you away from the purpose God has placed on your life. But when God allows pain to surface, it becomes a doorway to clarity. It forces you to confront realities you would have otherwise ignored. There are relationships that feel right in the moment, but carry long-term consequences you cannot foresee. You may believe that with enough effort, patience, or sacrifice, you can make them work. You may hold on out of loyalty, fear of change, or hope that things will improve. But God sees the hidden patterns you cannot see. He sees the emotional toll you are not admitting to yourself. He sees how certain connections weaken your faith, cloud your judgment, or slow your journey toward your destiny. And because He loves you too much to let you remain bound to what limits you, He allows discomfort to rise. That discomfort becomes the catalyst that moves you into necessary separation. Pain, in these moments, becomes purposeful. It creates distance where your heart was unwilling to do so. It removes your desire to cling to relationships that no longer align with your growth. It exposes the motives and intentions of others and the clarity you cannot ignore. Without that pain, you might have continued investing energy into connections that drained you. You might have kept giving your heart to people who could not value it. You might have stayed in places where your spirit was slowly withering. Pain disrupts that pattern. It opens your eyes and strengthens your resolve to walk away. There are also times when the harmful connection is not obvious. The person may not be openly toxic, unkind, or threatening. They may even seem supportive on the surface. But spiritually, their presence is out of alignment with where God is taking you. Not everyone who appears good is good for your destiny. Some people are connected to old versions of you, versions God is calling you to outgrow. Holding on to them would anchor you to a place God has already moved you beyond. Pain becomes the bridge that carries you from what was familiar to what is necessary for your future. When God uses pain to separate you, it is because there is something ahead that requires your full strength, focus, and emotional freedom. Harmful connections dilute your clarity, blur your purpose, and weigh down your spiritual momentum. God removes these connections because they threaten what He intends to build in you and through you. Even when the separation feels harsh, it is rooted in protection. God knows the battles coming in the next season of your life, and He cannot allow you to enter them with people who would weaken your resolve or betray your trust. As you look back on moments of painful separation, you may begin to recognize how strategic they were. You may see how your heart felt lighter after distance was created. You may realize how your mind became clearer, your confidence grew, and your spiritual sensitivity sharpened once certain people were no longer influencing your decisions. What felt like heartbreak was actually a cleansing. What felt like loss was actually liberation. Pain became the doorway God used to cut ties with what would have hindered your destiny. What feels like loss is often God making room for something greater. Many moments in life feel heavy because they involve letting go of people, opportunities, dreams, and expectations you once held deeply. When something you valued slips out of your hands, your first reaction is to grieve, to question why it happened, to wonder if you failed or missed something important. But in the spiritual realm, what you interpret as loss is frequently preparation. It is God clearing space in your life for blessings, relationships, growth, and opportunities that are far more aligned with your future than what you were trying to hold on to. Loss is not always subtraction. Sometimes it is divine addition in disguise. There are seasons when you cling to what is familiar simply because letting go feels too painful. You may fight to keep certain relationships alive, even when they no longer bring peace. You may hold on to a job or environment that drains you because it feels secure. You may chase dreams that no longer reflect who you are becoming. Yet, God sees the weight these things place on your spirit. He sees how they limit your potential and prevent you from stepping into the fullness of your calling. And so, He allows certain things to fall away. It may feel like everything is slipping through your fingers, but what's really happening is a divine rearranging. God is removing what cannot sustain your next level. Loss often comes before elevation. Before God builds something new, He clears away the old. Before He multiplies, He subtracts. Before He expands your territory, He reduces the clutter that crowds your life. Clutter in the form of outdated relationships, unhealthy attachments, small thinking, or environments that keep you bound. The feeling of loss is intense because you were emotionally invested. You had plans, hopes, and expectations tied to what is now gone. But God sees beyond your emotions. He sees the future and knows that holding on to the old would have forced you to settle for less than what He designed for you. There are times when God removes something you thought you needed, only to show you later that it was blocking something far more significant. That person who left created room for someone who will love you with honesty and honor. That job you lost made space for a path that will bring growth and fulfillment. That dream that collapsed opened your heart to a calling that will impact many more lives. What seemed like the end was actually the beginning of something greater. Loss became the turning point that shifted your direction toward a destiny far richer than what you imagined. Sometimes the loss is emotional. You shed old versions of yourself, releasing mindsets shaped by fear, insecurity, or past pain. You let go of identities that no longer match who God is shaping you to be. This inner loss can feel confusing because it challenges how you see yourself. But as your old identity fades, space is created for confidence, clarity, purpose, and spiritual maturity to rise. God makes room inside you so that the strength He placed within you can finally emerge without the barriers of old wounds or limited thinking. Loss also tests your trust. It pushes you to depend on God rather than your own understanding. When everything seems to fall apart and the plan you envisioned dissolves, you face a crossroads, cling to fear or trust that God is guiding you towards something better. This trust is what transforms loss into preparation. When you choose to believe that God is intentional, even in His subtractions, you begin to see how beautifully He arranges the pieces of your life. You realize that nothing was taken to harm you. Everything was removed to make space for a future greater than what you were settling for. Betrayal exposes true intentions and frees you from hidden threats. There are moments in life when someone you trusted reveals a side of themselves you never expected to see. Their actions cut deeply, not just because of what they did, but because you never imagined they could do it. Betrayal stings in a unique way because it comes from those close enough to hold your heart. Yet even in that pain, there is a layer of protection at work. God allows betrayal to surface when the loyalty you assumed was genuine is actually fragile, conditional, or rooted in motives that would eventually harm your destiny. What feels like devastation is often divine revelation, exposing hearts and intentions that were never aligned with your purpose. In seasons of betrayal, it is easy to focus solely on the wound. You replay conversations, question your judgment, and wonder how someone could turn against you. But betrayal does not appear out of nowhere. It is often the end result of hidden attitudes, jealousy, resentment, insecurity, or selfish ambition that have been growing quietly beneath the surface. You may not see them, but God does. And because He refuses to let those hidden threats surround your destiny, He brings them into the light. Betrayal becomes the tool that removes the mask, revealing the truth about who people really are and what they truly feel toward you. Without this painful exposure, you might have continued trusting individuals who were capable of undermining your calling when you needed support the most. Betrayal also disrupts relationships that appear stable on the outside but are spiritually misaligned on the inside. Some people walk with you not because they believe in you, but because your presence benefits them. They enjoy the connection as long as it serves their needs. But when your growth challenges their comfort, or your success stirs their insecurity, their true intentions rise to the surface. God allows these moments of betrayal to free you from relationships built on convenience rather than genuine covenant. As painful as it is, Betrayal becomes the push that separates you from people who cannot celebrate your progress, protect your vision, or withstand the weight of your calling. There are also betrayals that redirect your life. What the enemy meant to use as destruction, God uses as liberation. Being betrayed by someone you loved may force you out of environments that were quietly draining your confidence or limiting your faith. It may open your eyes to habits of overgiving, compromising or ignoring red flags. It may lead you to new relationships that bring healing, clarity, and support. Betrayal becomes a transition point, shifting your life's trajectory in ways you would not have chosen, but will later be grateful for. Once the false loyalty is removed, you are free to align with people who truly add value to your journey. Betrayal strengthens your discernment. It teaches you to listen more closely to your spirit, to observe actions rather than simply believing words, and to trust the inner warnings God places in your heart. While you cannot prevent all betrayals, you can become wiser, more grounded, and more spiritually sensitive because of them. The pain sharpens your awareness and helps you recognize whose presence brings peace and whose presence brings confusion. This clarity becomes one of the greatest protections God gives you. As time passes, you begin to see the protection behind the betrayal. You realize that if the person had stayed, they would have hindered your growth. You see that their departure removed anxiety you never admitted you felt. You understand that the exposure was necessary because hidden threats are often more dangerous than visible enemies. Betrayal removes what was secretly working against you, clearing your path for healthier connections and stronger purpose. God closes doors you would never have the strength to close yourself. There are times in life when you hold on to something long after its purpose has ended, not because it is good for you, but because you fear what life will look like without it. You may cling to relationships out of loyalty, opportunities out of comfort, environments out of familiarity, or dreams out of old expectations. Deep inside, you sense the door is no longer meant to stay open. You feel the tension, the discomfort, the lack of peace, and yet you stay. You try to fix what is falling apart, revive what is fading, and force what is no longer working because the thought of letting go feels overwhelming. In moments like these, God steps in. He closes the door himself because he knows you would keep walking through it even though it leads away from the purpose he has prepared for you. When God closes a door, it often feels abrupt. It may feel like a sudden ending, a missed opportunity, or an unexpected shift. You may question why things change so quickly, or why something you depended on is no longer available. But divine closure rarely comes without reason. God sees the consequences of staying in places where growth has stopped. He sees the emotional fatigue, the spiritual draining, and the potential loss of direction that would follow if you continued investing your energy into what is no longer aligned with your destiny. His closure becomes his protection, even if it feels like disruption. There are moments when God removes access to something because it is hindering your transformation. Staying too long in a place of comfort prevents you from stepping into a place of calling. Staying attached to people who cannot grow with you keeps you tethered to an old version of yourself. Staying committed to a dream that is no longer from him keeps you blind to the new vision he is trying to place in your heart. So God closes the door, not to punish, but to redirect. He knows that if the option remained open, you would return to it, settling for less than what he intends to give you. Sometimes the closed door is relational. A friendship drifts, a relationship breaks, or someone you depended on unexpectedly pulls away. You may feel rejected or confused, but God knows the path ahead requires different connections. He knows who can walk with you through the next season and who cannot. He knows whose presence brings clarity and whose presence brings chaos. When a relational door closes, it is often because the person's role in your story is complete. Keeping them in your life would create unnecessary conflict or stagnation. The closure creates space for new people whose loyalty, mindset, and spirit align with the direction he is guiding you toward. Other times, the closed door comes in the form of lost opportunities. A job doesn't work out, a plan collapses, or an expected breakthrough doesn't arrive. This can be particularly difficult because you feel you were close, prepared, and ready. Yet God sees what you cannot. He knows when an opportunity will drain you more than it blesses you. He knows when a breakthrough is too small for your potential. He knows when an open door would trap you in a season beneath the one he designed. What feels like a setback is sometimes God preventing you from settling for a life that falls short of his purpose for you. Closed doors also refine your faith. When God removes something you relied on, your dependence shifts from earthly security to divine guidance. You learn to trust Him in uncertainty, to follow Him without needing all the answers. You begin to recognize that His no is often a higher form of mercy. Over time, you notice the doors He closed protected you from heartbreak, misalignment, and exhaustion. The closure makes sense because the new paths that open afterward reveal what you never would have discovered if the old door had remained accessible. The hurt that confused you today will make sense in your future. In the moment of pain, everything feels heavy and unclear. You look at what happened and struggle to understand why God allowed certain events, why relationships shifted the way they did, why opportunities slipped away, or why you had to walk through seasons that felt unfair and overwhelming. Hurt has a way of clouding your vision. It makes you question yourself, question your decisions, and even question God's timing. But what feels confusing today is often part of a larger plan that will only become visible when you reach a different season of your life. Perspective grows with time, and what breaks your heart now may one day become the very piece that completes the puzzle of your purpose. There are experiences that feel unnecessary, wounds that feel too deep, and shifts that feel too sudden. You wonder why certain people were allowed to enter your life if they were only going to hurt you. You wonder why God didn't prevent certain betrayals or disappointments. You wonder why the path you walked had to be filled with so many unexpected turns. But pain is never wasted in the hands of God. He uses every experience to shape your character, strengthen your spirit, deepen your wisdom, and prepare you for responsibilities and blessings you cannot yet imagine. What you see as confusion is often preparation disguised in discomfort. In moments of hurt, you are being stretched. Your patience is being developed, your discernment sharpened, and your faith refined. These qualities cannot grow in comfort, they grow in challenge. Sometimes the people who hurt you become teachers without even knowing it. They teach you boundaries, discernment, resilience, and self-worth. They push you closer to God, because in your vulnerability, you seek His guidance more earnestly. The lessons buried within the pain become tools you will rely on in future seasons. Tools you would not have gained without walking through the very things that confused you. There are times when the answers to your questions cannot come immediately because the future they are tied to has not yet unfolded. God reveals understanding in stages, often after you have moved beyond the emotional weight of the experience. One day, you will look back and see how the pain redirected you, protected you, or pushed you into opportunities you would have never pursued otherwise. You will realize that if certain things had not fallen apart, you would have remained in places that were too small for your destiny. If certain people had not walked away, you would have continued giving energy to relationships that could not support your growth. Hurt becomes a turning point, steering you toward the future God prepared long before you understood the journey. Understanding often comes in hindsight. What makes no sense in one season becomes perfectly clear in another. You begin to see how every delay made room for something better, how every rejection positioned you for alignment, and how every heartbreak strengthened the foundation you stand on now. The confusion fades, replaced by gratitude for the wisdom and growth that emerged through the pain. You start to recognize the threads of divine purpose woven throughout your story, connecting painful moments to breakthroughs and disappointments to unexpected blessings. In the future, the hurt that once made you question everything will become one of the reasons your faith is strong, your perspective mature, and your purpose clear. The lessons gained will shape how you lead, how you love, and how you walk with confidence toward what God has prepared for you. The clarity that comes later will reveal that nothing you endured was meaningless. Every wound carried instruction, every setback carried direction, and every moment of confusion carried seeds of purpose that would only bloom in the right season.